On today's show, the San Diego Padres win another series, but unfortunately they got absolutely destroyed in the last game. My lord, is the Matt Waldron experiment over? The Padres offense, night and day difference from last year, even still. Jackson Merrill continuing all the hot stretch, and then this big old Mets series upcoming. Lots to talk about, so let's get into it.
You are Locked On Padres, your daily San Diego Padres podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Locked On Padres podcast, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for Thursday, August 22nd. As always, I'm your host with sometimes occasionally, but certainly not always the most, Javier Reyes. You might be familiar with my other baseball-related work over at the website Just Baseball, to which I usually have a hoodie. It's actually over here, if you're watching the video. Boom, it's you can see it, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, you can go check that out where I write about general baseball and the Padres, and I also host a podcast for them called Baseball vs. the World, which is about general fun, evergreen topics, and it'll be back next week with a fictional baseball draft. But if you just want to follow me on Twitter, at Javipeno, best handle in the game, JAVIIPENO. Today's show, guys, is brought to you by GameTime, ladies and gentlemen. We freaking love GameTime. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Today's episode, guys, we're recapping two games because we missed yesterday's episode, which happens sometimes. A life unfortunately got in the way for your boy. But don't worry, probably won't. I don't want to jinx it, but hopefully won't happen again. But overall, we're first going to talk about yesterday's game, and as you guys know, I like to kind of end more positively when we do the game recaps, but unfortunately, it was quite the bad one, so let's us get into it, because here's the thing. The same way, like, you have to, like, when these things happen, you have to kind of remember that, like, the Padres have still been winning, like, an unfathomable amount of games. Like this year, like they really have. So they've been so good at making comebacks that every time they get down, you're almost still like, is it over though? Yesterday, the Padres being down, and they ended up losing the game, by the way, 11-4. But they were down. What was it? Let me just check again. They were down 8-0 after the fourth inning, and I'm not kidding. Part of me was still like, hey, if they get a couple guys on base, maybe you get two runs next inning. All of a sudden it's only 6 runs. Maybe they could do what they did against the Cubs all those months ago. Unfortunately they don't, and it really is okay because Matt Waldron absolutely stunk it up. 4 1/3 innings. He gave up 10 earned runs on 12 hits, walked 1, struck out 3. Does not matter. Easily the worst starting pitching performance of not just Matt Waldron's season, but possibly of the entire Padres rotation. He's given up 10 earned runs in 4 1/3 in this one. He gave up 7 earned runs in 5 2/3 against the Rockies. And then at Miami, he only lasted 4 1/3. I will give him a little bit of break for Miami. Remember, that was the Estrada blow up. They brought in Estrada, and he gave up the hits that ended up amounting to runs. I know they're charged to him, but I'm just saying, slightly not as much his fault. But even if you go before that, okay, he had a good start against the Rockies. Then before that, the Dodgers, he gave up 5. Basically, what I'm trying to say is the Matt Waldron Linsanity run over? And I think that that's totally possible. I think that this is one of the things we talked about early on in the season, which is just, I'm kind of reverting back to that, which is Matt Waldron's okay for a 5th starter. And I think that this is also evidence of why you don't like extending guys when they look good for a certain amount of time, because you got to be patient, because then things like this can happen. And I think that one of the things that's important is to know is the knuckleball is a novelty. And it's a novelty because it seems like it's just one of those pitches that gets absolutely destroyed way, way too often. And players were torching this man. This was not some fluky, wow, he had one inning where he just made like a couple, no, 111 miles per hour off of Matt Wallner's at bat. Expected batting average of 1,000 is pretty wild always to see. He absolutely crushed a meatball that he threw in that 8th inning. And basically after that, the game was completely out of reach. Jose Miranda smoked it. Willie Castro, like basically with the exception of Donovan Solano and Jackson Merrill, the top 10 hardest hit balls of the game were all against our boy for the most part. Like they were just absolutely smoking the ball left and right. And I think this is something that happens when the knuckleball isn't on. I think it's just one of those pitches that can get destroyed when hitters are used to it. And I think that guys, you have to remember that we're in like 21st century, and also just teams that are, you know, facing him more than once. I'm not saying the Twins. Obviously, they haven't faced the Twins more than once, but I think that shows the bad, is that they haven't faced Matt Waldron before. His sweeper and knuckleball combination has been so good for the majority of this season, but I think that last night showed, or yesterday afternoon, I should say, for all you fine folks on the West Coast, I think yesterday showed you not only why the knuckleball is an endangered species, but also that, 21st century guys get data. Teams are figuring out what Matt Waldron does. And while I do think that a big part of him is control when that knuckleball is working, and when he's able to hit the left side of the plate and the right third of the plate, I should say, especially the left side of the plate, when he throws there, opponents have just like a weighted on base of like under 200 against his sweeper. And on the right side of the third of the plate, when he's throwing his sweeper, they're also weighted on base below 300 and also, or below 200. And also, he has a crazy whiff percentage as a knuckleball when he aims it there for the most part. But I think that there's a possibility that teams are just catching up to him. He's got a 4.79 ERA this season, 1.24 whip, so he's not giving up like a ton of hits usually. I still believe in him as this back end starter. I really do think that he's shown you he can be pretty solid during stretches. And we've seen that. I mean, basically before this, he had multiple months where he was doing pretty dang good this year. 4.97 ERA in July is not great, but not horrible. And then before that, 2.45 in June, 4.15 in May, 4.35 in April. He's a back-end starter, and I totally think that that's fine, which is why I'm not freaking out about this. Although the 10.35 ERA and 4 starts in August is why the experiment might be over, especially for, like I said, a team that hasn't faced him yet. So to me, though, overall, I'm genuinely I think I'm concerned about Matt Waldron, but I'm not concerned about the team, what this means for the rotation. I know I've been talking about how the top 3 potential rotation of Waldron, Cease, King in a playoff series, I really do think you could do worse than that. But the reason I'm not super concerned about the team's future because of this is because of the development of Martin Perez, who has been genuinely really good so far. And I don't think it's just fluky batting average on balls in play, bad at ball luck. I think that he's gotten more whiffs, and I think that his pitching usage, which is something I always like to look for on top of the whiffs, if you combine those two things, that's just a elementary understanding of pitching, but it's still a beginner part to be oh, this might not just be he's getting lucky and teams aren't hitting him. So I'm excited about the Perez pickup. And then also Musgrove, he's been back. He's been showing good signs. He's been up there. His velocity has been going up especially, and that's really exciting. And then you have the possibility of Yu Darvish coming back, who we haven't gotten an update on, but at least we know he has been keeping in shape. He has thrown some live bullpens. So that's really, really good. So all 3 of those guys, if you get something out of that, it's going to make up for whatever you're losing from Matt Waldron. Bottom line is Matt Waldron really helped this team during those stretches when Dylan Cease was one of the worst pitchers in baseball in the National League for a month. During that stretch when Michael King just hadn't figured it out yet, right? So we love you, Matt Waldron, very much, but it is possible that this was the end of the kind of dominance run. Although I still, again, think that he's going to be very useful down the stretch as we try to win more games and get into the playoffs. In the playoffs, don't know if he's going to be the guy, but overall, he's still a key piece, a key depth piece for this rotation. I still think it'd be valuable even beyond this year. I still think he can be okay. Low 4s ERA is good out of a 5th starter. It's plain and simple. It's very, very good. So anyway, that is it, guys, for the pitching recap of yesterday's game. But we got to talk about the offense really, really quickly, and then we're going to talk about the lovely Tuesday night game because we love ending the recaps on a high note. But first, I need to take a second, guys, to talk to you about one of our new sponsors, and they are called Tonal. Ooh. Here's the thing, guys. For those of us who thrive off getting stuff done, including workouts, every minute counts. That's why you need Tonal, the smart strength training system that takes the guesswork out of working out so you can make sure you're making the most out of every rep. I know folks who, are gym rats, if anybody's seen me. Look at this body. I'm clearly a gym rat. But I know one thing that just a tiny thing is you do lose time and whatnot. And even simple things like I lose track of what rep I'm on of my sets, right? Stuff like that. But anyway, check it out, guys. It's the world's smartest and most effective strength training system that helps get you stronger. Powered by AI, Tonal learns with every rep so it can deliver workouts personalized just for you. So beginner, experience, whatever it is, they kind of help you out there. It learns from your movement and provides suggested weight recommendations for every move with detailed progress reports. They can create personalized program workout suggestions or recommendations based on your individual goals. It's like having a personal trainer at home. It's great. They'll help you optimize every workout. from professional athletes to beginners to gym rats like me to moms of three, whatever it is, Tonal is trusted by thousands who have become their strongest. And right now, Tonal is offering our listeners $200 off your Tonal purchase with promo code. Wait for it. What do you think it is? It's Locked On MLB. As always, guys, right now, go check that out, tonal.com, and use promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $200 off your purpose. Tonal, Tonal. Again, Locked On MLB for $200 off. Go check it out. And just like that, everybody, we are back thriving and vibing here on the Locked On Padres podcast. Let's finish up the recaps, guys. Let's discuss this. In terms of the offense yesterday, it's not the story. Right, that's why I spent the whole entire segment talking about Matt Waldron. But Donovan Solano, he gets a hit in this one. We get a 2-hit game from Jackson Merrill, including a home run. That was obviously extremely low leverage situation. It did not matter. Hits it at the end of the game. In the bottom of the 8th inning. Bryce Johnson got an RBI, so I appreciate that. Donovan Solano had a home run. So just in terms of like agendas and personal agendas of like throwing out like how crazy these players are and how they haven't been getting attention, the Merrill home run, all it does, 2-run shot, all it does is help his Rookie of the Year case, which by the way is growing to the point where he's had such a run. And I need everyone to like stop yelling at me that I thought it was Skeens, because 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago, whatever it was, when I said that, he hadn't gone on that obscene run yet. And I didn't realize that he was just going to keep doing this. So Jackson Merrill genuinely, I think, could be the Rookie of the Year. And also, forget these Skeens, he doesn't pitch every day thing. He might not, because the Pirates are only losing. It seems like they're falling out of kind of playoff contention. So I could actually see a world in which they just shut him down for the rest of the season. So it might just be Merrill. Like it really might be, just especially because of that. Although I would still refute that, but it looks like he's tapping into something, guys. 1,000 OPS in 17 games this month. But again, I must emphasize, he's had some up and down months throughout the year, but I still really, really like him. And it just doesn't stop. I think the elevation of power of his skill set is genuinely unexpected. I did not think that he'd be able to do that his rookie year. I thought he'd be a batting average, maybe hit like 12, 15 home runs max. I genuinely did not think that the power would be something that a 21-year-old could tap into so early. So forgive me if I'm a fool. And it's not just home runs, by the way. He's slugging .491. He rips doubles. He rips triples. He's got 6 triples on the year. You guys all know how good this man is. He's just unbelievable. So if he ever gets a walk rate, if he ever figures out how to draw some more walks, he's going to be like an MVP candidate. Seriously. That's how good everything else is. But of course, Donovan Solano, the other one, he hit a home run. It was cute. You know what I mean? I appreciate it. I like him pumping his stats up. Again, that's the key with this Padres offense. It's been amazing how they've gotten so much out of the unexpected places. Donovan Solano, Jurickson, Profar, and Jackson Merrill being that area. I know Jackson Merrill's a top prospect, but it's always surprising when a rookie can be this good so quickly, right? And hey, just for context, like there are other top prospects who were bad their rookie year and then got better later, right? So there was even if Jackson Merrill was okay this year, that didn't mean that I thought he was going to be an okay player for the rest of his career. But, Bobby Witt Jr., like he's potentially the MVP candidate in the American League right now. So, just really great vibes overall that's what this Padres offense has done this season. I think the big thing you have to talk about, though, obviously, is Jurickson Profar. 1673 OPS is number 1 in all of baseball in high leverage situations. If you want to go by WRC plus, it's even more impressive because he's got a 351 in high leverage, and the second closest is nearly 50 points below him at 313. So just absolutely incredible stuff. And if you're curious, the other high leverage WRC plus leaders, Tatis, he's number 11, and Jackson Merrill, he's number 19, just to give you a little bit of an idea of why this Padres team has been so great, even though they haven't had Tatis for some time. It's just really great to see. And from a team standpoint, obviously, you guys might have seen this by now, the Padres are number 1 in Major League Baseball with WRC plus in high leverage situations. The D-backs, who have been on an unbelievable run, basically equivalent to what the Padres have done since the All-Star break, they're number 2 with a 120. The Padres are 1 with a 157. That's freaking crazy, man. Like, seriously, that's crazy. 157, nearly 40 points better than the second place team. It's just the ultimate reversal of fortune from last season, which was genuinely like a nightmare, and I hated every second of it. I think everyone would agree it was terrible. The Padres last year were the second worst with WRC plus in high leverage situations, with only, if I'm not mistaken, or were they the worst? Wait, I can't find them actually. What's going on here? Oh, stupid Fangraph. Stop messing with my thing. But they were the second worst at like 66. It's not loading for me right now, but my apologies. So it's just, again, this is what happens when you get a turnaround. I love it so much, and we love the San Diego Padres team. I got to get this right. 65 WRC plus last year. Only the Royals were worse. So again, it shows you how much things can change year to year in this specific stat. But I will say one thing. While it is great to talk about this, and don't get me wrong, the Padres have had really good performance from a lot of their players. Obviously, we talked about the unexpected errors in Profar, Merrill, and who's the last one? And Donovan Solano. And Kyle Higashioka, he hasn't been necessarily the high leverage freak on this team, but just in general, the fact that you've gotten offense out of that guy who basically has never been a plus bat before in his career, I mean, again, it's just unbelievable. But Xander Bogaerts, do got to talk about him. Not talking about him in this game necessarily. Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot to recap the game. Well, I will in a second. Let me just continue my point. Xander Bogaerts is the one player who hasn't been good in high leverage situations this year. In fact, he's last on the entire team in high leverage situations this year, which is extremely not good for a guy you're paying all this money to, and a guy who has 2 World Series rings, and it's like he's known for being in the big games and delivering. But so far this year, in terms of batting average, he's got a 286 batting average, but in terms of WRC plus in high leverage situations this year, he's by far the worst, with only Luis Campusano being close at the second worst. Xander Bogaerts is the worst with a 63 WRC plus in high leverage situations. He has not drawn a walk in any of those situations, and he also has a high BABIP of 400. So he's hitting 286, and that's why the WRC plus is so bad, because it shows you he might be getting a little bit lucky on the ground balls that have been hit in play. So we need more from Bogaerts, and it's weird that this is the second straight year that he's going to be bad in high leverage. That's like actually kind of an anomaly. So hopefully he figures it out, but that is worth bringing up. He has been dreadful, 28.6% strikeout rate in those instances too. And even the balls he's putting into play, as evidenced by the BABIP, might be a little bit luck-based. So they need that. But let me tell you, he did deliver for them on the Tuesday night game. The San Diego Padres winning this one by a score of 7-5. Martin Perez, who we talked about a little bit before, he wasn't awesome in the start, but I still thought that he delivered a lot, and basically only had one pitch that went bad, and it was the pitch to Ryan Jeffers that he like scooped like an ice cream cone, like scooped it up or golfed it, whatever you want to call it, down the left field line. Other than that pitch, he wasn't too bad, but still 3 earned runs and 4 1/3 innings pitch, 1 walk, 2 Ks. I still think he can deliver at least a little bit of something. I do. I believe in the pitch usage. I believe in the whiffs. I believe in what we've been seeing, but overall not great from him. But the Padres bullpen was very good in this game. Brian Hoeing goes 1 1/3, doesn't give up any runs. Yuki Matsui, once again, doing the thing he loves doing, which is as soon as he has some sort of bad blow up or whatever, as soon as he gives up runs, he starts looking really impressive. 2 strikeouts in this one. I really think it's a control thing, and I think that next year might be the year for him. But if it's in high leverage, please do not have him in there, because he gives up these weird hits and home runs or whatever it is at the wrong times, even though everything about his stats, his peripherals, his baseball savant, and the little red sliders, all of them speak to him getting a little bit better. So I'm hoping for that. But it wasn't him, actually, that was bad in this game. It was Tanner Scott, who unfortunately blows the game a little bit open, which was unfortunate. And I was very, very sad. I'm not using this to complain about bullpen. I think that overall, we've just seen that this Padres bullpen has been pretty elite so far, and it's okay. Tanner Scott literally had not given up a run, I don't think, in his Padres tenure. Or did he? No, he had. No, it was Jason Adam, I think, is the one that hasn't. One of them hadn't given up a run, but whatever. He gave up 2 earned runs, unfortunately, and this was a back and forth, really exciting game, right? David Peralta starts it off with a single in the bottom of the second inning. Ryan Jeffers, he hit that aforementioned home run. Manny Machado ties the game in the bottom of the 7th inning off of Bailey Ober, who they were not hitting all game, by the way. And this shows you why this team is so exciting, because even when they look awful for like majority of the game, they still have this feeling of like, well, they've got 6 outs left. They could do it. Someone's going to step up, and that's what happens here. Jake Cronenworth hitting a double before him. Just absolutely incredible. Love the double from Cronenworth, by the way. The Padres were not battling well against Bailey Ober, who, for the record, is a good pitcher for the Twins. 6 innings in this one, only gives up 3 earned runs. He's just like the epitome of just a walking quality start always, who can occasionally ramp it up with the strikeouts. But I think that overall, I wasn't like mad that the Padres weren't producing against him. I was just a little bit mad that it was so quick. You know what I mean? They weren't battling. There's a lot of first pitch outs in this one too. So not great. The pitch count was really low for Bailey Ober heading into that inning when Cronenworth hit the double and Machado tied it. And that swing, the way he sometimes does, like when he swings and he like lifts him, he like does a little bounce off of his back leg, almost as if he wants his back leg to like spiritually, majestically like push the ball even further. That swing and that like look back at it, like he threw his whole life force into the swing. Oh, I'm never going to get tired of Manny Machado's swing. So he came up clutch, and by the way, has been pretty good for the Padres this season in the clutch, albeit not as amazing. In high leverage situations, a 101 WRC plus. That's the third worst on the team. If you're curious about who's second best, it's Tatis, then Merrill, then Kim, then Solano, then Arise, then Cronenworth, then Manny, then Campusano, then Bogaerts. But for all those who qualify. But that was not all. You have the Tanner Scott implosion. It's all good. Look, it happens. He wasn't going to be perfect, right? But that happens. He gives up the Christian Vasquez single that allows a bunch of runs to score. I will say, though, bases loaded, like nobody out. Could have been a lot worse, so thankfully they stay in it. And then what happens in the bottom of the 8th inning? Jurickson Profar, as he has done all year. That's why I talked at the beginning of the podcast about it. That's why I was mentioning Profar just now, that he hits a 3-run shot to give the Padres the lead. It was such a good feeling, too, because Arise and Solano both getting on base. Arise is just such a pest. If everything goes right, if he can return to what he usually does, that's such a pest of a batter for teams to start off against. And it's going to be especially true in the playoffs. I still believe a big playoffs are coming for Luis Arise, but Profar hitting the home run, barely, almost didn't entirely get out, but it did. Again, it can't be emphasized enough how good he's been. And then Xander Bogaerts chips in a double as well, which we very much appreciate. And there was another little thing that occurred in that game, and I want to talk about it, talk a little bit more positively about the Padres and how they are as a team in just a second. But first, I need to take a moment, guys, to talk to you about Supply House. Here's the second. Here's the thing. Supply House, they keep you all up to date when it comes to all of the skilled trades, plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products. Supplyhouse.com is the reliable way to order them. Their easy to use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. And if you need help, don't worry. They've got some of the friendliest and most expertismo folks in the industry to help you out. No robocalls, real person. And pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge, by the way. So all you pro skilled mumbo jumbo folks out there, you Bob the builders out there, you can get a competitive edge by joining supplyhouse.com's free Trade Master program. Every Trade Master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free membership at supplyhouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service with Supply House. But that's not all, folks. We also got to talk about one of my favorite sponsors, if I'm being a little bit biased, and that's GameTime, folks. First of all, great name. I'm just saying. I mean, this isn't part of the ad. It's just a great name. Let me tell you guys, GameTime. Let me tell you, it has a new feature called GameTime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. It filters out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. And also, GameTime, they're offering you a nice little 50% off Labor Day offer for Diamondbacks Dodgers. So go check that out if you want to root for the D-backs to beat up on our rival. Although maybe is not the best for listeners of this show because we're also rooting for the D-backs right now, or rooting against them. But whatever, go check it out, guys. It is really, really fantastic. They've got things to all sorts of events, even including every sport. They've got theater, they've got musicals, they've got comedies, they've got all sorts of stuff, or comedy shows, I should say. They've got all sorts of deals on each of those. They can give you seat views, they give you all sorts of good coverage that you get for your tickets, and they get easier and lower up to the time of the event. So GameTime really has you covered for everything. And if you download the app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB, you can get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed with GameTime. And just like that, everybody, we are back thriving and vibing on the Locked On Padres podcast. I want to do some more positivity and talk about this for a little bit, but one of the things that I noticed, or actually Twitter noticed it in fairness, they were pointing out that Jurickson Profar, after his home run, seems to have like, I don't know. It seems like he annoyed. The team might have been barking at him, especially catcher Christian Vazquez. This was tweeted by @SamNeher24. 2 batters later, after Profar had homered, it looked like he was chirping at him or whatever. I like this idea that Jurickson Profar is an irritant. And Jurickson Profar, to me, has shown you the underbelly. And I won't get too far down into this rabbit hole and my soapbox, but kind of shows you the underbelly of baseball culture where it's like you have to act a certain way. And teams will get mad and hit you with the ball if you don't act exactly the way they want. It was actually really funny yesterday. Jesse Winker hit a walk-off for the Mets. And then he was so excited, and he literally like was staring at it. Then he stopped. He like flexed or whatever towards his own dugout, and then threw his helmet and whatnot. He was excited. It was awesome. I was excited watching it just on the side course. But it's a friendly reminder of why it shows the underbelly of bad sports, because Jesse Winker was on the Nationals and he was one of those players that was annoyed with Profar. You know what I mean? So it's like, so you're annoyed with what Profar did, but then you literally just like did all this thing, and here's what the defenders will say. Yeah, well, Profar did it towards our dugout. Like all these little semantical reasons. And guys, I promise you, it's never going to be enough for those type of people. Whatever it is, you know what they don't like. But anyway, we'll move on from that whole thing. I just think that Profar, what's been so funny is that every single time that someone has done anything to him, they've been irritated with him, they've been throwing at him, they've called him irrelevant, shout out Will Smith, the team seems to strike back. Because right after that, right after the home run and after the chirping 2 batters later, Xander Bogaerts, after hitting his double, seems to look back. And this was tweeted by my guy @TooMuchMore. Tom, he's a really good follow if anybody's on Twitter and doesn't follow him already for some reason. It looks like he says something after he hits that RBI double back to Christian Vazquez. I love the way that this team seems to ride for him and step up every time. And it's been him too, obviously, like the infamous irrelevant game. Hit the game-winning RBI bases clearing double, right? He had that. He had the day after his game winner, he hit a grand slam. You know what I'm saying? And then after that same game, by the way, he got hit, in my opinion, probably unintentionally. But the problem is you can't just like, after all that for you to hit him. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just crazy. Shout out Mackenzie Gore for Padre. He hits him, and then Machado hits a blast right after. Bogaerts hits this double, and clearly says something. All the reports and vibes from this team are that everybody roots for each other, and everybody pulls for each other. And that's a really, really good sign. And I do think that doesn't necessarily mean that, and I know this might sound crazy, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they got, the Mike Schilt, Bob Melvin was awful or whatever it is. It's not that, but to me, it's just, this is a product of what happens when you're winning. And I don't think that a team not having great chemistry or clubhouse vibes when they're losing is necessarily an indictment on the clubhouse. I think it could be an indictment on a bunch of things. It could be, but there's just so many other things that go on there. And this team has been winning all year, basically, and especially, well, not all year, forgive me, but this team has been making these comeback great wins all year. We talked about that in the first 2 segments. That's what's been so fun about following this team. And that's why, like, no matter what happens, like, I'm always going to be grateful for this team. I try, personally, not to view sports in such a myopic way of win or lose. I try not to do that. I try to enjoy the vibes, even though, believe me, I get very annoyed by the winning and losing. You try to enjoy it that way. And if you are one of those people that don't view it in that particular lens, then this season has had so much for you. Stud rookies, out of nowhere performances from guys that are easy to root for, ace quality performances, a no-hitter amongst them, a great bullpen, right? A Robert Suarez new closer entrance thing. I don't even know. Like, they might have. There's a potential that the Padres have, like, I don't know. Wait, is Dylan Cease? Not Dylan Cease. Is Michael King a Cy? I don't think he is. I have to check the numbers again, but I'm pretty sure there's a lot of pitchers better. But whatever. You get my point. Yeah, like Zach Wheeler, the guys in the Phillies. Okay, never mind then. Skeens. Ugh. But this team has just had it all, man. It really, really has, and I absolutely love it. We're going to see what happens this weekend, though. They have a huge series upcoming against the Mets that could genuinely change a lot. By the way, someone actually mentioned into my DMs, they mentioned, speaking of Mike Schilt and whether or not he's to praise for all this, they didn't understand in the Tuesday game why they brought in Tanner Scott against Royce Lewis? I don't really have an answer for that because Royce Lewis has killed lefties this year, so I don't know exactly why they should do this. Why they should, bring in a lefty when Royce Lewis kills lefties. I just didn't understand that. I don't understand if there's another bullpen option available. But whatever, I didn't tweet about it also because I just had a feeling that this Padres team would come back. But when it comes to comebacks, we'll be facing the Mets this weekend. And the Mets have been on fire. Francisco Lindor, my favorite player in baseball, which I've talked about on this show far before. I'm talking about like his Cleveland days. He is potentially the MVP of the National League. It's close between him and Ohtani, but he's been on fire and actually getting a little bit unlucky. He's been on fire. In general, that Mets team, speaking of vibes, has good vibes. It's been reported that Lindor and Brandon Nimmo, the two highest I believe, players on the team. Yes, I believe those are the two highest paid players on the team. They host frequently these family, not even family, but team dinners, and apparently they have 100% attendance. All the vibes seem very good, and I actually just saw that Jeff Passan released an article on Lindor this weekend. So I'm basically trying to say is that the Padres vibes are incredible, but so are the Mets. Thankfully, we're playing at home. Maybe they can help mitigate it. We don't have the grimace thing to have to deal with, but it's going to be a very interesting series, starting off with Luis Severino versus Dylan Cease. Severino having a little bit of a bounce-back season, 117 strikeouts on the year, 47 walks, as opposed to Cease, who, he's... I don't know if he's going to get 14 strikeouts, but he's going to reach the 200 strikeout plateau again. And I think that that's going to be a really fun matchup for tonight's game. And then on Friday, you've got Paul Blackburn versus Joe Musgrove, the matchup that I'm most paying attention to. And then Saturday, you've got Michael King versus David Peterson, who's been actually pretty low-key good for them this year for the Mets side. And then lastly, on Sunday, the okay, who blinks first? Who's going to be the bad one? Jose Quintana versus Martin Perez. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to be talking about it more on tomorrow's episode with Ryan Finkelstein of Locked On Mets. We're going to preview the series, talk about all the vibes. He can explain to me what's going on over there. Look, it's a solid team, and they are motivated. They want to make the playoffs too. And it's a 4-game stretch too. The Mets are on the outside looking in for that third spot, especially. But this is the thing with the Padres is they don't want to fall in the standings. You still want to take a shot and see if you can win this division. And we've got plenty of games left, frankly. So anything can happen. So huge series against them. And I'm looking forward to it. It's actually, they haven't played a good series against the Mets. I don't mean in terms of them playing well. I'm talking about just a competitive series. It feels like it's always one way or the other for the most part. I know the playoffs, yeah, obviously they played well against them there. But it feels like it's always been one way or the other when playing the Mets. And earlier this year, they got absolutely torpedoed. I couldn't even think of a word. They got absolutely torpedoed by the Mets lastly. And by the way, you know who was one of the pitchers that got torpedoed? Dylan Cease. So going to be paying attention to that, whether or not he gives up the long balls. Is Dylan Cease in that little... I'm good, but I'm in a little bit of a funk phase still? Or is he about to go down another one of his stretches where he just looks like the best pitcher in baseball? So that should be interesting to follow. And all in all, I'm excited because I think the Padres have an advantage in basically every way, especially when it comes to just the starting pitching. Frankly, I think is much better and more believable than the Mets. But don't mistake, 5th in home runs, 8th in slugging percentage. They can hit and they can come back fast on you. So beware. But don't worry, don't be a square. This Padres team is very good. Until next time, though, folks, until that next crossover, this has been the Locked On Padres podcast, the only pod that may be better than the Padres themselves. Go check out my Rays piece. I wrote about the Tampa Bay Rays and the problem that they represent for baseball. That'll be out a little bit later by the time you're listening to this, but look forward to that over at justbaseball.com. And until next time, stay safe and, of course, stay faithful, my Friar Faithful homies. Take care.